No?
No, Josh took a bunch of cables upstairs. So I'm gonna go. That's the only place I can go. I can go ask him. Yeah. And there it was just like regular, like material wires. All right, I'll go ask him. Yeah. Thanks.
Plug is right under there, so it's going to extension for it.
All that freezing stuff that is keeping you going, you're still doing that? The cryo or whatever. Yeah. Did you was there about that? They start you to know exactly what they really? All right.
It will work upstairs.
Back on work.
I want to take this down.
And the point of it is
I'm going to put it from here to here. Yeah. They're going to be rolling the R over here. So maybe as soon as they go by, I'll plug that in.
this is their calm down there.
No first play? No. That's how many times you watch it. Maybe you want to just have a clap and say,
Nah, I don't know. I was going to say starting soon. People.
Can I move? Put this in there, plug this in. Plug that in there. You have that. You have that. Plug it in. There you go. Just in case. Why don't you hook it right there so it doesn't hang on the phone.
Just going to take it down.
There you go.
Know where to hook that. Can't hook that. There's no
You
real.
can just make a loop with the power cable. There you go. That's it. No, not at all. We never use that.
Should be on. Can't tell from here. You can't tell from here whether it's power or not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Good. Okay. Good. Okay. That's fine. Thank you, Anton.
Carter Wellwood Cemetery. I do ask that these step your cars immediately after the family and the owners have left to close the hall. Thank you.
If you're going to go to Wellwood Cemetery after you get your cars right away, yeah, notice.
are gathered this morning on a very sad day. Pay our final respects, our covered achron, to a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a Bas Yisrael. And there's a very grieving family for Daniela Sarah Bas Eliezer Yisrael Halevi. And we hope that the family can find consolation, of course, with the devoted husband to Josh Grajower, to his beloved children, David, Neely, and Orly, to Dannie's parents, Eli and Lori, sisters and brothers, Eitan, Racheli, Micah and Becky, and Josh. And we're going to begin by reciting the Tehillim. There are many dignitaries and many very important Rabbanim who are here. I'd like to ask Rabbi Mordechai Willig, Rosh Yeshiva at Yeshiva University, and Rabbi Israel Dibble there, please say the Israel Dibble. Shalom David, Shomreini el ki chasisi lo. Omart Adonai Adonai Oto Tovasi Balalecho. L'kdoshim asher ba'aretimo. Adirei kol cheftibo. Yiglat tzvosam achem maharu. Balasichnes kehemidom. Uvalasot shmosam al sufosai. Adonai minas kalki v'chosi, ato tomich lorovi, chavolim naflu v'animim, af nachalos shofroi. Avarech Adonai asher yatzani, af velos yisruni chuyosai. Shivisi Adonai lenevi samid, ki mimini ba'alemot. V'chein tzamach livi v'yol kvodi, Af Pesarish Kol Navetach, Kilos Azov Nafshi Lishol, Los Yitein Chasidcho Leos Shochas, Todi Eini Orach Chaim, Sovas Machos Es Ponecho, Nimos Bimincho Netzach. I'd like to ask Rabbi Yehuda Fisher, one of the Rosh Yeshiva that tells Yeshiva Riverdale, say it's a bit what they hold.
Mother David, Adonai lo yilo yachzor, v'lachoyt peshen yarbitzeini, amen v'choyzim amen. Nafshi yishoyvi, Achein למד לצדק למען שמוי, גם כי אלה רגעי תלמודת להעיר לו, כי אתה אלוהי, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. הלא לפני שוב כנגד ציר אלוהי. ישנת להשם אלוהי כיסי ובויו. אך תוי וחסי ידפון יקונים בחיוי. ישבתי בבית אדונו אוי יונים.
I can ask Eli Epstein, please say words of Hesper.
I would like to begin by thanking each of you for being here today. for your love and support to our family in this very difficult time. We've been blessed to have many friends and extended family who have expressed much kindness to us, and for this we're both grateful for the past and hopeful for the future. To most of you, I would like to make a brief comment about our lack of communication these past years. This is not an apology, but rather a way of explaining Dannie as who she was. Dannie was a very modest person. Who insisted on her privacy and never wanted to be a victim of her disease. She wanted to live her life on her terms and fully engage her family, her role as a mother, wife, and teacher. We followed her desire for utter privacy and kept the details of her health issues to a very small circle of our family. When she was first diagnosed many years ago, we spoke to her about what it would take to get us through this the madness, the stresses, vastly unfamiliar, frightening road ahead. We spoke explicitly about faith and family and friends. I believe this remained true for her and Josh, and certainly for me and Lori. Dannie's faith never wavered. Her religious practices remained the same. Her prayers were said, and her concern for her home standards of consistent religious observance remained unaltered. Most important, and to my mind amazing, she never questioned her condition, her faith, her prospects to survive. Not once to me, not once to Lori, not once to Josh. I am today and will always be overwhelmed by this and consider myself a lowly student of her immense strength, of belief and faith and acceptance. Our family was amazing during these past years. I must mention explicitly her husband Josh. His love, poise, doing better than Europe here. Friendship, support, and humor were ever present. It enabled him to do things which really no spouse ever expects to be called upon to do. He never would. He stayed literally by her side every step. It was just awesome to watch. Lori was utterly incredible to Dannie and to her kids and household. Her capacity to give in every way was inspiring. This includes physical help, emotional support, cooking, shopping, planning, baking, and the list goes on and on. Her love and strength and perseverance were powerful every day and in every way. Dannie was always deeply attached to her family, which includes not only Josh and her funny and active and loving kids, Gavin, Neely, and Orly, but she also had a deep and special bond to each of her brothers. In recent months, this became ever more apparent. They were able to reach her and make her laugh and cry and laugh again in ways I could only marvel and envy. Eitan could evoke distant memories of their shared childhood, episodes long forgotten by everyone, but known intimately to him and to Dannie. Micah had a zany and unique way to reach her funny bone and create giggles when the rest of us stood by motionless. And our son Josh's humor was so perfectly matched to the wit and sarcasm Danny was known for. Their humor DNA was a virtual match. I have expressed to each of them privately and will do so again now publicly. I am so proud of my family, my kids, and their spouses for their deep concern, involvement, and their love in caring for Danny. It touched all our hearts and gives us today a glimpse into how we will pull through this awful period. Now a word about Danny's friends. Danny and Josh moved to Boca 7 years ago. They formed a community with new friends with similar values and often shared professional interest in education. But we saw much more than that in recent months. The Boca community exhibited a genuine people of and care which never ended. It just poured out in natural and beautiful ways. Every day seemed to bring visits to what we began to call Danny's Cafe. We were so grateful for these expressions of giving and caring. Danny was, of course, an only daughter among our 4 children, but as an only daughter, she was blessed with many, many sisters. These relationships and their visits to Boca and to New Rochelle were so cherished and important to Danny. It was clear to all of us that they offered Danny an important element of deep friendship, humor, and closeness. I mention them today, and forgive me if I left out any names. Tamar and Shira, Eliza, Jesse, Shari, Sharona, Nava, Liana, Shira Sharp, Shira Englander, Shira Kroll, Ariel Moskowitz, Rena, Rachie, and Dina. Danny lived too short. No one. No one should have to go through this horrific ordeal. But her illness should never define her life. She built a glorious family. She taught and inspired her many students who loved her and who will go out to live their own lives with a measure of her values and humor in their hearts. Let's all remember this during this sadness, how much Danny loved to joke and laugh and enjoy life. Through the tears and heartache. Let's keep in mind that love lasts forever, and there is joy and happiness ahead. Thank you all for being here.
Lori Epstein-Molnowski.
How does a mother know that she has done a good job raising her children? How does she know that the values and beliefs that she holds have been successfully transferred to her offspring? Pulling all-nighters with sick or frightened children, or proofreading a book report, or encouraging them to take chances and standing by them as they identify new goals and exciting challenges doesn't automatically translate into a mother's success. It may mean you've worked hard and you've tried your best to do all the right things, but the real measure of triumph is seeing the person that your child has become and the values that they adopt and exemplify as they grow and learn and build their own lives. That is a sign of success. I nailed it with Danny. A mother hopes that her children will get along with one another, build lifelong relationships, support each other, and enjoy time spent together. Danny forged a relationship with Eitan, Micah, and Josh that let each of them be who they were. They laughed with each other and at each other. And while they didn't always see eye to eye, the bonds between them were strong and forever. Never was this more true Then over the course of the last 6 months, as all four of them tried to comfort one another and enjoy the time they spent together, reminiscing, laughing, discussing, and poking fun at me and Eli, probably more at me than Eli. A mom wants her child to be intelligent and kind and funny and sensitive, smart, but not just in a book smart kind of way. I tried to teach Dannie, teach her how to add and to spell. But more than that, how to think and to challenge herself. Nothing has made me prouder than to see her become a smart, loyal, and sensitive teacher and role model for her students. She had an incredible drive and commitment for her students and her job, whether in the classroom or in student activities. Upon hearing of Dannie's death, one of her students wrote a short note thanking Dannie for inspiring her every single day, for the countless laughs, and for making her the person she is today. Another thanked her for seeing my potential and bringing it to fruition. You dedicate yourself to building the foundation of the Jewish people and ensuring a bright future. Not only that, but you succeeded beyond measure in teaching each child according to his individual mind, soul, and ability. You are a role model for me and all those who know you. Thank you for everything. Devotion and love are essential attributes for success. Dannie's group of friends, some from 30 years ago, some from summer camp, and others from colorful junctures along the way for life. Her friends were remarkable. I don't know whether it was Dannie who was incredibly loyal, loving, devoted, or if it was this amazing group of women, or both. Either way, the love and commitment and friendship shown over the years, and particularly over the last 7 months, as evidenced by letters written and regular trips to visit in Boca or more recently in New York, should be a lesson to us all. I will forever remember Dannie's smiles and laughter as a zany group of friends spent countless hours together. All parents feel a mix of happiness and sadness as a child matures and moves on to build her own life. For Eli and for me, we were blessed to be able to continue to be a part of Dannie's life through visits to Boca and their return trips to New York, through vacations together, and participation at school performances and babysitting. We were excited to share recipes and ask each other's opinions on decorating ideas. Thank you, Dannie, for allowing us to continue to be a part of your life. As a mother, perhaps I am most proud of Dannie's commitment and love for Josh and her children. Often understated or sometimes mixed with humor and wit, her dedication and loyalty for David, Neely, and Orly came from her core. She lived it with her being and showed it with a smile amidst a note scribbled at morning drop-off, a congratulatory hug, or a high five. Perhaps too young to grasp the enormity of what has happened, I trust that the love and dedication that she gave them will live with them, and they will come to remember and understand how amazing and valiant she was. Dannie and Josh were truly friends. They laughed together, cried together, competed on the tennis court together, and worked together to build a beautiful home with strong values and ethics. Josh's dedication, unending to Dannie throughout these years, is just remarkable. Ewan and I tried to instill in our kids that the essential ingredients for a successful marriage include friendship, laughter, commitment, love, and dedication. Dannie and Josh had it all. And she was beautiful, and she was athletic, and she was sarcastic and funny, and her smile sparkled and touched us all. You were truly a gift. Yes, I nailed it with Dannie. Not because of what I did, but because of who she became. I thought a lot about how and why this has happened to her and to us. As Eli said, her faith through it all has just been remarkable. I don't know that it's just not easy to understand. But I do know that Hashem has had a hand in it. He has enabled her to live a happy and productive life, giving birth to 2 more miracle babies, raising a beautiful family, and building and sustaining an all who came into contact with her. She has left her mark on all of us, even in this very beginning of life. I can only believe that Hashem has something important for her to do now. And please forgive me and watch over us, your students, your friends, your brothers, Dad and me, Josh, and David, and you, and Will.
Nathan Epstein Hucker.
What is there to say? Hatzur Tomim Pa'ala Kichol Dirachav Mishpat El Elohim Eilov El Tzadik V'Yasher. You're perfect and flawless in your ways. Nothing you do is wrong. These are the words that I've practiced saying over and over for the last 6 months. I hoped that they would remain in my heart and be a pasuk in my bar mitzvah parsha. And I would not have to stand here sharing with you today. But that was not to be. On one of my trips to Florida, Dannie told me of the recent event of the Yeshiva League Legend game. Josh mentioned to Dannie that maybe she could play one day. Dannie scoffed back and said, "Some legend I am now." Josh responded by reassuring her, "Dan, once a legend is always a legend." The more I reflected on that story, the more Josh's response rang true to me. Yet, as I gave it even more thought, I realized that Dannie's legacy was way beyond her MVP performance in the Yeshiva League final game in the Meadowlands in 10th grade. I know that trying to put her legacy into a few minutes is unfair, but I will try to be mastic karoi to give a correct and proper eulogy. And I picked out two facets that made her so special. The first was her unquenchable thirst and quest for spirituality. She reached for heights well beyond her surroundings, both during her year in Israel and during her college years, and then again in the years that followed. She had her eyes cast towards heaven and kept lifting herself higher and higher. And then she did it again and decided to give up a career, or at least a planned career in advertising, to teach Torah to children, something which she continued to do with incredible dedication and with an unwavering commitment until she was literally physically unable to go to school. And I asked the principal of the school what made her a great teacher. He told me that her deepest desire was to be the best teacher she could be. She would ask for criticism, both constructive and open, caring not about her own ego, only about being the best teacher she could be, and improving as a teacher and mentor to her students. Again, at each stage and station in her life, she desired more and more and demanded more from herself, reaching higher and higher. And her impact on her students was incredible, as the recent letters we have seen attested to their love and admiration for her. All of this was done with her usual trait of Hatznei Leches. None of this was announced, no big proclamations. She just grew and grew and grew. She didn't tell anyone. She just did it because it was the right thing to do. I was sitting with her in Boca, and I asked her, how'd she do it all? How'd she grow to be such a great person? She responded in her usual manner, it was just meant to be. The second part of her legacy, in my mind, really puts her in a league of her own. I know my father and mother both mentioned it, but that's the truth. I do not know another person like this with regard to this area, and that was the midah of Hatznei Leches when it came to her sickness. Not only was she able to keep this a secret and went through great difficulty at times to do so, but through all this, none of us ever heard her complain. Not once, not for 8 years. This is simply astounding. Danny ever spoke about her sickness. I don't know, really to anyone. We sat having breakfast together. Her breakfast was mostly pills. I looked at her and she looked at me. I was trying to see if she would say something. As she consumed the myriad of pills that she had come to eat every morning, she said to me, Nisyonos. A lot of nisyonos. And she said, I thought I had nisyonos, but I would trade these for those. That's all I heard her say in 8 years. Nisyonos. And these were sort of kosher, both physical and mental, and you saw them only as tests. These are just opportunities to grow and achieve new levels. And over the last 8 years, you indeed rose to a whole new level. See, it struck me that our people like Danny who could accept the situation and refrain from complaining. Often, however, they strengthen themselves by speaking about their faith. About what Hashem does is always right, and we can't complain. And I refer to this as a sort of ha'emanti ki adaber, I believe because I can speak. Danny did not have this crutch. She would not speak about it to anyone. She kept the facade and went about life as if everything was normal. This was truly the midah of Vayidoim Aharon. She said absolutely nothing. Nothing about her condition, nothing about her faith. It just was what it was, and that was the reality she accepted. She received the divine will in complete silence. The Ramban in Sefer Dvarim explains an amazing comment why Hashem loves the Jewish people. He says, it's the reason why God has such a strong connection with the Jewish people that will never break. Why He chose us, He saw us worthy to be loved by Him. They were chosen to be loved more than all the nations. The Torah makes no mention of the actual reason. And He explains, a chosen person knows how to bear everything that comes from his lover. The Jewish people were worthy of this more than any other nation. And He says, they will stand up for Him in tests and in challenges. Danny, you were so beloved in our eyes and in the eyes of Hashem as well. You accepted your condition without question and without complaint. This is indeed something I will always be in awe of you for. To some of you, she was Danny, and others Dan Man, and some of you, Mrs. Grajower. But ultimately, to me, she was my baby sister. 33 years ago, I extended my arms and accepted a new baby into our family, my new baby sister. Today, we once again extend our hands and give my baby sister back to her Creator. We thank Hashem for the incredible time with her, times of laughter, times of growth, and times of challenge. Hashem Nosam, Hashem Lakach, Hashem Hashem Loyal. Danny, I would now like to make a pact of prayer with you. Your tefillos were so special. I remember the day you received the most difficult news from Duke. You were sitting in the kitchen and I noticed your phone was on the counter and it buzzed. I picked it up. I'd never seen that type of phone before. And I looked at the phone and it had a reminder to daven for a sick person that you wanted to daven for. I was amazed. You were davening for everyone else. Almost no one knew to daven for you. I'm sure that many here wish they could have prayed on your behalf if only they would have known. Chaskel Levenstein in Shriach and Mir explains that the real time to daven is after a person moves to the next world. You can daven for their place in the next world, for their success, and for their happiness there. And Danny, we will do this. I ask that you in return that you daven for us, as you always have done. For your kids, for Josh, for mom and dad. Daven for Mashiach. We have spoken a lot of God in our conversations in the last few weeks when I was doing most of the talking. But I know how desperate you would desire his arrival. We ask you to find out when He's coming. We'll do our best, but please go and beg Hashem to send. Danny, go in peace. Rest in peace. Until we see the fulfillment of the words of the Navi. Bila Amavas Lanetzav, and Lach Hashem Alekim Dilam Yalkov Padim Amen.
Danny's brother, Michael.
Thank you all very much for coming. Firstly, I want to echo everyone else's comments and be not here so great things. I think of each other. It's certainly not my place to thank you for all that you did for Danny these past years, but at least I would like to recognize it. You set the high watermark for dedication and devotion, and while nobody knows the full extent of all you did to care for Danny, the little that we do know has truly been inspirational. To mom and to dad, it is one thing to say that there's nothing to do, there's nothing you wouldn't do for your children. But over the past weeks and months, years, you have shown the boundless capacity you have to give to your children and your grandchildren, and your truly tireless devotion to their well-being. To all the family, friends, neighbors, and members of our respective communities who have expressed their love and concern in all different forms, in phone calls, texts, emails, visits, meals, pastries, in many forms. And also to those who have expressed their care in silence. Thank you all very much. There's a short speech. There's a simple truth about my relationship with Danny. I love more than almost anything else to make her laugh. There's no aspect of our relationship more fundamentally true than how much. I relished and sought after those moments. I would chase it. I made mental notes of stories, impressions, things I could share that would set her off. When we were breaking to laughter, each of us displaying our signature forehead veins. It was pure glee. Having those many moments made everything easier, everything more powerful, and everything better. Oh, the Hodar strength and glory are adornments which you last to the final day. Traditionally, we understand the end of the pasuk to mean you last thinking of the final days, the final day. However, it's also possible to read that she laughs until her last day. In that sense, Danny truly did embody that trait, laughing, making others laugh, literally until the very end. I remember the absurd dissonance of joking and laughing together as I helped Danny shave her head while she was in the course of treatment. She proudly told me she was was doing it in solidarity with me. Everyone else has and will continue to attest to the fact that Dannie never complained through her fight with cancer. But it does go beyond that. Because through all of this, through the surgeries and the chemo, the nausea, the physical limitations, the devastating sadness, and the paralyzing fear we all had, Dannie was still able to laugh. Dannie was and is my big sister. I adored her, I saw her praised, and craved her approval for as long as I can remember, and more fully than I can understand or explain. I remember years ago, one summer evening, right before school started, she came and asked me to come outside and practice basketball with her. I was, without exaggeration, filled with delight, and had a sense of surprise and wonder that I believe only the younger siblings of a certain type of person can understand. Of being chosen, me. I soon realized that she was inviting me to get her rebound. To work on her baseline shooting. The memory in my mind is no less warm or wonderful. Even if I was relegated to standing under the basket, boxing out imaginary opponents, it didn't matter. It didn't matter that we weren't equals, or that sometimes we weren't even playing the same game. I always enjoyed being and considered it equivalent to be on the same court as Dannie. I love being Dannie's brother. I love being recognized as looking like him, as having similar mannerisms, or of making similar comments or jokes. Most of all, I love laughing with her. I'm so grateful to Dannie, to Hashem, for all the years and the laughs we've shared. And I'm so sorely going to miss my sister. Three words to David and to Nihili. Your mama loved you so much. Special pride in each of you and what made you special. Dannie loved to share the small things you did, the things you said, and we're so proud of the people you've become and the people you will become. You three were the happiest thing in Mama's life. And though I know you miss her, please remember that she loves you and was always heart-achingly proud of each of you. It was a very difficult day for all of classroom. We asked Hashem, Malta Hashem Dimo Mi'alko Panim, Hashem Amu Yasir Mi'alko Haaretz. Thank you.
And his brother Josh.
Thank you all for coming. At some point during 8th grade, I took off a day from school to visit Ramaz, the high school from which all 4 Epstein children, even Eitan, graduated. It wasn't my first time in Ramaz, though. Far from it. Indeed, for as long as my bedtime had allowed, I had been visiting the school, and in particular the gym, as often as twice a week during the academic year in order to support my siblings along their respective athletic endeavors. I'd be lying if I said I enjoyed watching Micah play floor hockey. I'd be lying if I said I watched much of it at all. For the most part, I'd spend my evening making Sisyphean trips between my seat in the bleachers and the vending machines on the floor above. To be frank, Mike and I spent a lot of time playing sports with and against each other over the years, so even as a kid, I knew better than to worry about missing anything spectacular in my dear well. Dannie's games were a different story, though. For starters, they involved a real sport, and her team actually won some of the games. She was a remarkable athlete, which admittedly seems silly to talk about now, but being a remarkable athlete is just about the coolest thing you can be to your younger brother, and that's what will always be to her. And so when I visited Ramaz in advance of my own enrollment, I did so with a degree of confidence that's best described as being altogether unbefitting a lanky 14-year-old with braces and a forehead whose size was surpassed only by its shine. It turned out that I was paired up with a freshman whose morning schedule included gym, and so before class, I introduced myself to Mr. Dannie, here today, the boys' gym teacher and longtime varsity basketball coach, as Dannie Epstein's little brother. I soon found out, as luck would have it, I had arrived on the first day of the month or so during which the boys played basketball during gym period. After we finished stretching, Mr. Dannie quieted us down and began the instructional part of class, including a brief tutorial on jump shooting. Next thing I knew, he was by my side, saying, in all my years of coaching men and women, if I had to choose one player to have the ball at the end of the game, it would be this kid's sister. Not exactly the cool introduction I was looking for, but I couldn't help myself from swelling with pride at the thought of Dannie, my sister, being elevated and celebrated in that way. I watched her take some of those shots, and I watched some of her teammates and competitors take some of those shots, and he was absolutely right. But I also couldn't help but swell with nausea when I tuned back in for the second half of Mr. Dannie's introduction, as he said to the class, and now he's going to show you us what a perfect jump shot looks like. So right then and there, I made up my mind. I was going to live up to her height. I was going to make her as proud as she had made me. So I took the ball, measured my distance, and did everything I could to channel whatever part of my sister's talent was left over when they made me. And I airballed, very badly. I'm not as good of an athlete as Dannie was. It's not even all that close. That's really not surprising to me or anyone that knew her either. She pushed. She pushed herself to be the best, not only as an athlete, but as mother, wife, and sister. And being the best mother, wife, and particularly sister, meant pushing us, too. I don't think there's anyone in my life who was as earnestly and unrepentantly willing to push me. I'm stubborn and quiet, so she pushed me to open up and share with the world around me. I'm not great at that, but I'd be a lot worse without her help. She pushed me to challenge myself, academically, professionally, and socially, and was always the first to check in to see if I met those challenges, and offer reinforcements if I did not. Most importantly, she pushed me to love and to accept being loved. I honestly never thought I would or could be a good uncle, but she demanded it of me. She would accept nothing less than the piggybacking, nose-wiping, shriek-tolerating person I've somehow become. And I couldn't be more grateful. She also tried pushing me to be better at basketball, but that was kind of a lot to ask of either of us. And when that didn't work, I, like so many brothers before me, was relegated to rebounding duty. Ultra coordinated though she was, even the greats must practice, and that was where we came in. Dannie spent hours upon hours in our driveway, pounding leather into asphalt and whisking threads from the net with each swish, perfecting her craft and honing her determination. And there we were, one at a time usually, diving headfirst into bushes to corral any shot that happened to miss its mark. For reference, in baseball, the equivalent of this job is done by a very much inanimate mesh screen. But in our house, that privilege fell to her brothers, and in hindsight, it truly was a privilege. Even as a child, being out there with her offered me two things: an opportunity to witness her greatness, and an excuse to take credit for it. She worked incredibly hard for her successes, including, of course, those that she achieved in life beyond high school. Micah and I combined probably spent less than 1/1000th of the time she did chasing after errant shots. But that didn't matter when it came time for me to take that ill-fated shot years later. It didn't even really matter that I missed, to be honest. I'm pretty sure I was going to flop sweat straight through that shirt anyways. That stuff didn't matter because it was the first time I'd ever heard someone, objectively, non-relative, praise her like that. And so even after the Air Bowl, I was, at once, in awe of the lasting impression of her greatness had left and consumed with my own undeserved smugness. Without even knowing or intending it, Dannie provided me with some much-needed and well-timed externalized pride, the ability to look at something awesome and spectacular and think, I did that. I helped make her that player. In that way, she gave me the gift of allowing me to be, or at least to feel, a part of her greatness. Now that gift is being offered to all of us, a chance to help carry on the strength and love with which she filled her life and the lives of those around her. Perhaps this is simply a tragic opportunity to renew our own respective parts, not only to cement her greatness, but to imbibe its memory with enough love and significance so that her kids will understand and appreciate its gravity for decades to come. So, standing before you today as a lanky 26-year-old with a forehead whose size is surpassed only by shine, I put forth that challenge to come together and join us in rebounding for Dannie, to pick up where she left off. Not because she needs our help, by all accounts she had far more makes than misses along the way, but because, I would argue, that doing so offers a path not only to connect to her legacy, but to join in it as her teammates. I just want to end by acknowledging some of the people that have already begun that work of picking up, continuing the legacy, and starting their parents. I've borne witness for 26 years to your greatness too. I don't think I could ever have imagined feeling as much pride and gratitude for both of you as I have over the last several months and still do now. You grappled in secret with this burden for 8 grueling years, but your energy never wore thin. The grace and compassion you brought to your parenting and grandparenting seemed not only natural, but fluent, even in the face of the most unnatural reality parents can endure. You were with her fighting every step of the way, like alchemists spinning pain into love. I won't ever be able to thank you enough for the nurturing and dignified care you gave Dannie. I only hope to one day be able to be half the parents you each are in your own right. Josh. By the time I met Josh, it was already more or less understood that he would be marrying my sister. I still remember walking into the kitchen where he was sitting on a stool next to Dannie, and given the context of our introduction, I couldn't help trying to size him up, even before we said hello. It was critical to me that my sister be with a respectable and congenial man, which he certainly appeared to be. As I stepped closer, Dannie said, "Josh, meet Josh." And it was at that very moment that I couldn't help but think, God, this is going to be really annoying. And annoying it has been. For 10 years, we've received each other's emails, text messages, and phone calls. And despite being a full 10 years, somehow our family still hasn't figured out how to communicate which one of us they're talking to in the situation. But I'll say this. I watched you grow as a husband, father, and teacher for 10 years, and especially throughout this last difficult stretch. And I can honestly say I would be lucky to be mistaken for you. The love you extended to my sister was remarkable to behold, and matched only by the grace with which you have navigated an unimaginably difficult challenge in parenting. I want to thank you for being such an amazing, albeit unwitting role model for the type of Josh I want to be, except maybe a few less gray hairs. Thank you.
Josh Grajower, Danny's husband.
Before I talk about Danny, I just want to say one word of introduction. This is obviously a major tragedy, and I can imagine people have questions about Hashem and Amunah. As you've heard, remarkably, Danny was a role model in every way in Amunah. And I'm not here standing to give you advice, but I just want to share two thoughts that about Hashem and about that challenge. And both I really do think were embodied by Danny and our family throughout. The first is, we are here to serve him with a capital H. He does not need to serve us. When we ask certain questions, we're making an assumption that we're entitled to an answer. Our job here is to do our mission and serve Hashem. It is at times a very tough pill to swallow. But if we keep our lives in perspective, it helps us deal with the emunah. And number two, being in pain, asking questions, and struggling are not a lack of emunah. In my opinion, it's not a lack of emunah to feel sad, to feel empty, and even at times to feel distant from Hashem. There are times when the pain is so strong, you cannot feel anything else, but that's okay. It also doesn't mean we no longer believe in Hashem and His master plan. There's a reason why we use the phrase Baruch Dayan MS and nothing more after a death. Just because we are in pain and we cannot understand does not mean that we do not believe. At the Levaya of the Chavetz Chaim, his son said that usually with people, the less you know them, the greater you think they are. The closer you get, the more you see their flaws. He said that his father, the Chavetz Chaim, was exactly the opposite. Those who just heard of him, once witnessed his quote greatness, they knew so little. Those a little closer, they knew a little more. His family saw him every day. They really knew what kind of gadol he was and the person he was. In the home, he was a greater gadol than in the outside world. I've thought about this idea and Danny for a very, very long time. She has been living the most unbelievable life for so long, and none of you knew. Even now, I don't think you can really appreciate her godless. I'm scared to even speak about her because I know I cannot do justice to her character, her strength, her wisdom, and her humility. She was a true gadol, and the closer you were to her, the more you're able to see it. I used to tell her, I'm the only one who knows how special she is. I'm the only person who sees her on a daily basis. With her unparalleled strength, midos, emunah, and everything else. Danny, I'm going to try my best, against your will, to share some of your greatness, and I apologize for inevitably falling short. This will be just a glimpse. I want to hone in on 4 character traits that I believe truly define Danny. Strength, humility, sense of humor, and care for others. Care for others. I remember when Danny and I were engaged, my father-in-law gave me a whole speech how Danny will not be able to handle the thin-up lifestyle because she likes to shop and buy her fancy clothes. I could say that Danny would sometimes go shopping, not frequently, but she almost never bought clothes for herself. I rarely went shopping for clothes because Danny would tell me she found an Amazon deal and bought me shoes. She went to the mall and saw a sweater she liked for me. She went to TJ Maxx to buy my ties. She would come home with a bag of clothes, a few things for David, matching outfits for the girls, and some stuff for me. I would ask what she bought for herself, and she would say, I didn't have time to look. Her care for others extended beyond just me and my kids. This year I opened up her Yom Kippur Machzor and found a few sticky notes. In the situation Danny was in, you can imagine someone just davening for themselves. But I found not just 1 year, but a number of years of sticky notes with specific tefillot for members of her family, for some of her friends. And while we all hopefully we all daven for other people and don't just daven for ourselves, the fact that she took time in her situation to articulate personal tefillos for each one of these people meant that she was thinking about them, she was planning how to help them, and she really cared. While Danny was dealing with a brain tumor for over 8 years, she really only started to have physical limitations in the past few months. Right before Pesach, Danny was already having difficulty using her left hand, which made cooking food more difficult. I remember coming home one day and her explaining that we're hosting 2 families for Shabbos lunch before Pesach. I was dumbfounded and annoyed, knowing how hard it would be for her to cook, and I asked her why in the world she would do that. And her response was I was talking to one of them, and she was saying how hard it is to make Pesach, and she's dreading it. So I felt really bad, and I immediately invited her. And once we had one couple, I figured we'd have another one that is making Pesach and can use the break. I literally yelled at her. But that's what she wanted. If she could help others, she wanted to do it. We were often hosting different visitors to Boca, family, and random people who just needed a place to stay. And even as Danny's situation was declining, she never changed her attitude. Immediately upon returning after Pesach this year, Danny offered to host people for a simcha, and we did. A few weeks later, she offered a guest room for another simcha, and I had to yell at her again, common theme, that we cannot host people now with what she's dealing with. But that was Danny. She just wanted to give to others. She was never thinking about herself, her own pain, suffering. In every moment, all she cared about with other people, what she could do for others. Danny's strength. She was a tough cookie. I remember a little while back, a member of our community calling me about an issue, and I discussed the issue with her, and after a few minutes I said, I really think you should call Danny about this. She can speak to the issue better than I can. And she responded, no, I'm too scared of Danny to ask her. When we moved to Boca, we paid a little extra money to have a guaranteed delivery date of Thursday so we can get our stuff in before Shabbos. And we flew down, just Danny and I without our kids. And I remember calling the company, towards midday on Thursday, asking what time to expect the truck. And they told me Friday at 3 p.m. And I tried explaining politely how it's not going to work, and we had a Sabbath coming, and we'll be paid extra for the guaranteed day. And through my, trying my best, the man said, I'm really sorry, but your truck is in Atlanta, and they simply can't make it today. So I hung up, and I turned to Danny, who was standing there, and explained it to her. She looked back at me and said, I don't understand, and you took no for an answer. And the truck drove straight from Atlanta, and unpacked our stuff until 2 a.m. Because that was Danny. She was certainly tough and strong, but her strength of character was truly remarkable and simply not believable. I'm going to share with you just a few details of her medical history just to show you her superhuman strength. At one point during the process, she was put on a 45-day radiation treatment, whose main side effect was lethargy. She went every single day after school to radiation treatment for 45 days. This was through her daily grind of raising children, teaching, running a home, and running student activities. She went through treatment while running a color war in school. It did not faze her. She did not have the emotional support of someone going with her, because I had to take the kids home from school during that time. She never took a day off, nothing. She went on with her life like these were regular days. After Orly was born, Dannie had to have a second surgery for her brain tumor. Just a week or so after giving birth, we flew to Duke and she had to have surgery. We got home from Duke on a Thursday evening, and she had a birthday party for a friend that was Motzei Shabbos. I told her, simply say you can't make it. You just had a baby a few weeks earlier. It's a legitimate excuse. Other people would use it. Certainly, you don't even need to mention anything about a craniotomy. She said, no, the person's going to feel slighted if I don't go. So just a few days after a craniotomy, still with a bandage on her head, she put on a sheitel and went to the birthday party. I remember her coming home and basically ripping off her sheitel from pain. I couldn't understand the strength she had to go out and deal with it, but that was Dannie. Despite all her struggles walking at the end, at almost every instant she refused a wheelchair unless I forced her into one. She had strength that I simply cannot describe. Even in these last few weeks as we've been here, every single aide commented to me on her strength and how strong she was. I always told her, Hashem didn't give me this challenge because he knew what a wuss I am. Dannie was always strong in every way. She was humble. Humility is a very hard trait to define. Sneas is a very hard trait to define. However, Dannie defined it. Dannie was so talented. She was really a gifted person. Extremely athletic, smart, funny, creative. She never wanted any attention given to her skills. In every arena, Dannie never wanted to be in the spotlight. Never wanted to be thanked, praised. She didn't seek honor, she literally ran from it. Throughout all her illness, even those who did know did not praise her enough for her strength and her character. We all at times took it for granted, even, or especially me, who saw it day in and day out. I take it for granted because she did things so effortlessly, never seeking attention. She just wanted to be treated normally, even though she was living a life that was anything but normal. On many levels, I could not do what Dannie did. In terms of the secrecy, though, I would simply want the credit for being the amazing person who was going through treatment for a brain tumor and still went to work. I would want my boss, my colleagues, my students to know how incredible I was for doing my job while going through all these challenges. Dannie was amazingly humble. She never wanted the credit for her strength. She really didn't want anyone to look at her differently. As everyone mentioned, she never complained, ever. I remember in the last few months she said to me, I could live like this forever if I had to. She never complained. Anyone who runs from honor, honor will run after them. Dannie, no matter how much you tried to run from this honor, no matter how much you didn't want it, you deserve it and so much more. Even though you never cared, I just wish you could have really seen and felt the honor you truly deserve. Sense of humor. I received many beautiful letters from students over the last few weeks. A few things were repeated a lot, but nothing was repeated as often as Dannie's sense of humor and sarcasm. To know Dannie is to be exposed to sarcasm. It may actually be what brought us together. Dannie loved to laugh, and she was drawn to people with a good sense of humor. One of Dannie's New York friends actually just asked me last week, Do the bulk of people know how funny and sarcastic Dannie is? I replied, how could they not? Dannie had a lot of different facets to her, but I would say she really ran on humor. It was her fuel, it was her life source. I also really feel it was one of the great sources of her strength throughout these years. When we came to New York for Sukkot, unfortunately we had to go straight to the ER. When realizing we'd be stuck in the hospital on Shabbos, just the two of us, I grabbed two books to read. The first was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Yes, an intense choice. It was actually Dannie's copy of the book, and she had underlined certain parts. One thing she underlined was a comment Frankl made about the surprising role of humor in concentration camps. He wrote the following lines about humor, and they were some of the few lines underlined by Dannie herself. It is well known that humor, more than anything else in the human makeup, can afford an aloofness and an ability to rise above any situation, even if only for a few seconds. The attempt to develop a sense of humor and to see things in a humorous light is some kind of trick learned while mastering the art of living. I cannot say just how many times Dannie and I laughed about her physical disabilities. She would make self-deprecating jokes, I would make jokes, Micah would make jokes. She used her humor so well to cope with the unbearable circumstances. She literally ran on humor. It was the fuel that kept her going and kept her spirits up. To Dannie's friends, she loved you so much. You were amazing to her and she knew it. She told me many, many times in the last few months that she had the best friends in the entire world. To Dannie's students, some of which I saw here today, I didn't even spend time talking about what an incredible teacher Dannie was. I'll take just a minute and try and highlight what so many students wrote to me. And the main thing was that she truly cared about each and every student. Dannie had a practice of putting grades on the back of the first sheet of the test instead of on the front. Be sensitive, so no other student would see the grade and embarrass the student. For each test, and if you're not a teacher, I'm going to tell you this is a lot of work. For each test, she wrote 3 different versions of the test, giving the appropriate version to a student on a different level. Even if it was only one student on a level, high or low, she wrote an individual test for that student to reach each person on their level. She was a truly incredible teacher, both in and out of the classroom. Her creativity and programming was unbelievable. And as was mentioned, she was constantly trying to grow as a teacher and improve. I cannot tell you the countless hours that we spent speaking about teaching and her desire to get better and improve and change. She loved each of her colleagues so much and would talk about her crew at school. Most importantly, though, she really loved each and every one of you, her students. She loved her job so much and would cry a lot about how hard it was after Pesach not going back to work and not being able to teach. She really loved you. To our family, you have all provided so much support for us throughout these last 8 years and more acutely through these last few months. No matter what needed to be done, you all stepped up and helped out. Mom and Dad specifically, you moved into our home and gave us support in every way possible. You made our lives easier, and you did everything you could to make Dannie, the kids, and I more comfortable in these last few months. Most importantly, Dannie loved having you there, and the love and support that you gave her. Nothing brought Dannie more joy than being at the Shabbos table right here in New Rochelle with her family. The laughter and fun, the Pesach softball turned kickball game, the competitive games of Noah or Blood. She cherished every moment here in New Rochelle and loved nothing more to be together. To David, Neely, and Orly, You were her life. Everything comes back to you. She loved you guys so much. She didn't want you to have any pain. She never wanted you to know of her suffering and her pain. She cried the most painful tears, thinking she couldn't watch you grow up. Be at your bar mitzvahs, dance at your weddings. She loved you more than anything in the entire world, and she will always be with us. You were her biggest source of joy, and she took so much nachas in each of you. David, you are mature beyond your young years. Mama took so much pride in how you look after Neely and Orly. You're amazingly popular, not simply because you're a great athlete, but much more because you're kind, caring, and sensitive to others. Mama always took such nachas and joy from the way your teachers spoke about you, and she loved you so much. Neely, your kindness, your heart, and your gentle personality. You were unreal with Mama these last few months. She loved you so much. Orly, I know you're not here, but one day you can watch this and know you are a bundle of joy. You are constantly smiling, and your infectious smile lights up our house. You brought so much joy and smiles to Mama, and she loved you so much. Danny, you were truly my best friend in every single way. Tamar used to call us the Bobbsey twins. We did everything together, and we loved it. There's not a facet of our lives that we didn't share. You were my teaching buddy, my tennis partner, my sarcastic sidekick. Maybe I was a sidekick. My speech editor, my religious counselor, my parenting partner, and most incredible wife. We spoke for hours a day, and I truly feel empty without you. I cannot imagine going on without your guidance, wisdom, support, and love. In this coming week's Parsha, we read about the death of Sarah. And the pasuk says, "Vayavo Avram l'spod l'Sarah v'livkosa." That Avram came to eulogize Sarah and then to cry. And the Kliyaker asks, shouldn't the crying come before the hesped? We know in Halacha, the first 3 days are when they cry. The crying comes first, and then you eulogize. So why does the pasuk order it this way? And the Kliyaker says that when it came to Sarah, first you gave the hesped, and then only afterwards you started to realize the impact that she had made, and then you cried even more. Danny, you have impacted so many people with your actions and by the model of the life that you lived. We're only going to cry more as we hear more stories. You've passed, but you truly live on in each of your students, your friends, your family members, and especially in David, Neely, and Orly. We hope we can make you proud. I love you so much, and I miss you so much. Please,
The final speaker, Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg, a very special rabbi, and the rabbi of the Grajower family.
of speeches and the overlap really testifies to the truth of all that was said. Dannie is deserving of many, many more hours of kavod akram, of espedim, of eulogies. But I just want to share some perspective from Boca, from a community that so adores and loves and was so changed and affected by her. Dodi yarad legano la'arugas habosem liros beganim v'lukot shoshanim. Poskin Shir Hashirim describes, my beloved has gone down to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed in the garden and to gather lilies. Sefer Nachla Shafar points out that when the gardener needs fruit, when he needs to be satiated by the sweetness and succulence of his garden, he plucks those that are matured by age, those that have been ripened by time. But when the gardener yearns for the flower, when he wants to pluck a flower from his garden, he's not concerned by age, only by its fragrance and by its pleasant appearance, by its contribution. Ribono Shel Olam, the omnipotent and infinite creator of all life, is called by Shlomo HaMelech, Dodi, my beloved. He is the gardener of the universe. And most often, he lovingly plucks ripe, matured fruit, those that have been sated with life and yearning for eternal rest. And then there are moments like this. Moments that are unfathomable, that are incomprehensible, when meaning and reason seem suspended by time and replaced by mystery. The divine gardener of the Ribono Shel Olam has not taken a ripe old fruit. He's come down to his garden and he's taken a young flower. He snatched an incredible woman, an extraordinary person. The strongest flower I and many of us in this room have ever known. Dodi the Gano, our beloved, has gone down and he's taken a remarkable flower with multiple petals. Each one beautiful in their own right. Dannie was a wife, a mother, a daughter, a teacher, a friend. And as we heard, a tremendous Eved Hashem, Yireh Shamayim. As a teacher in Catskill Day School in our community, she was really one of a kind. She was bright, creative, innovative, constantly rethinking how she could make her subjects meaningful and relevant and relatable and inspiring and accessible to all of her students. That sense of humor, including its sarcasm, entertained the children as much as she educated them. She would think out of the box and introduce new ways of learning and thinking to her classroom. She was meticulous in making sure that every detail was met, was handled. Despite, now we know through those horrific treatments, nothing was compromised. Nothing was shortchanged. Dannie's relationship with her students was unusual. I know this because among them were my children, beneficiaries of her being a role model. She saw her students, as young as they were, as mature and competent people, capable of her challenging them. They profoundly appreciated her trust in them. They loved her for it. They reacted and they felt she treated them like no one else. She wanted them to succeed, as we heard, taking the time to prepare 3 tests, 3 versions, so every student was positioned for success. She paid careful attention to the underdog. Special attention to students who were struggling, who were trying their hardest, who were pushing through despite whatever obstacles they faced in their lives, and maybe now we appreciate why she had a particular affinity for them. On report cards, Dannie wrote not just a perfunctory template of what to write. She wrote real comments, thoughtful, tailored feedback that would give parents nachas, or let them know what needed to be worked on. When she returned tests next to the grade, she wrote words of encouragement. She always went the extra mile and was never satisfied with the bare minimum. Dannie wanted her students to have the best experience in everything. But she never took credit. And as we heard, she never wanted, she couldn't tolerate. She was repulsed by the limelight. She worked tirelessly to make sure her color war happened smoothly without a glitch, her creativity, her attention to detail. But when it's time to take a public role or a spotlight, she stepped out of the way. She was able to generate amazing ruach in the school, but always from behind the scenes. Consummate sanua, modest and humble, low-key, under the radar, incredibly low maintenance. She understood well her strengths and her capabilities. She was confident in them, but she didn't need anyone else's praise or recognition. Students described she had such an impact on them because she never taught them anything that she wasn't doing in her own life herself. Her deeds matched her words. She cared so much she would come to sporting events to root them on, to cheer them on. And again, only now do we know how difficult that was and the effort it took. She was always trying to improve herself, went to professional development, took courses, embraced opportunities to grow. She was admired by her colleagues, so many of whom flew up early this morning to be here and pay tribute, to express their love. It wasn't only the children of Boca who considered her their teacher, but it was adults. She taught in our adult education program. She gave shiurim for women on a regular basis, and she had such a following of people who loved not only the content of her class, the style and delivery in which she presented it. Then he was an amazing Eved Hashem. One of my daughters, who was her student, described to me that she constantly drew inspiration from watching Mrs. Grajower daven. Yom Noram, as a small child, my daughter described she would easily get distracted, her mind would wander. And when that would happen, she developed this habit, she would turn around. Mrs. Grajower sat in the row behind her. And when she saw the intensity and the sincerity and the focus and how genuine Mrs. Grajower was davening, it was contagious. It lifted everyone around her. Davening meant so much to her, she would tell her friends who had come to visit, it was time to daven, they had to leave. It was time to say Tehillim, they had to give her a break. She was a tremendous balas chesed in her characteristic way, without fanfare or drama. Her home, Josh, your home, was always open. The table always full, often with people who needed a meal and didn't get invited elsewhere. But she was the one who thought of them. Her chesed was done in an inconspicuous way. The recipient, the beneficiary, didn't even see it as chesed. They saw it as friendship. She would nonchalantly say to a friend, "You're going away, let me watch your kids. Your kids are over, let them just stay for dinner." Nothing was a big deal. Nothing fazed her. She was always calm and in control. And she was a great cook. Her signature dishes known throughout the community, her caramel cake or her crazy cookies that made an appearance at every show in Zachar and Boca. Danny's hallmark was her emes. In a world of sheker, she had an utter intolerance for falsehood, exaggerations, manipulations that flow so comfortably from other people's lips. She was that straight shooter. She cut right to the chase. She spoke from the heart. She told you how she felt or what was on her mind, and she expected the same from you. Her sense of humor was witty, thought-provoking, sometimes had a biting sarcasm that always cut right through the nonsense and went right to the heart of the matter. She was genuine. She saw through the counterfeit, the fake, the nonsense. She read people well. She could size up a situation, and that's why she was such a source of advice and counsel. Her friends went to her because they could count on her to be honest, to be insightful, not just to answer impulsively, to always think what was best for them and have no ulterior motive for herself. Pasha describes, as Josh just said, and Sarah Imaina passed away, but Medrash Tanchuma teaches that hesped that Avram delivered was nothing other than the song Eishes Chayil, the last parak of Mishlei. That was the hesped Avram composed for his wife. Eishes Chayil meyimtza. What is an Eishes Chayil? What does Chayil mean? Pashas Yisro, when Yisro was giving advice to Moshe how to identify leaders, the most important quality he mentions, Anshe Chayil Yirei Elokim, men of Chayil, people who are God-fearing. What's Chayil? What was he looking for? The Sforno says Chayil means able, people who have good judgment, people of incredible strength, people of valor. Dannie met and surpassed each of these definitions. A Yirei Elokim and Eishes Chayil to Josh, to her beautiful children. Able and competent, amazing judgment, and more strength and valor than almost anyone, any of us have known. And while Dannie would do anything for you, for us, for her friends, for her community, she never, ever wanted anything, either in return or done for her in general. She was proud, independent, and competent, refused to ever be a burden, or ask for help at work, at school, or at home. She was stoic and strong and courageous. Her tenacity, resolve, and perseverance literally added time to her life and that quality of life that she was able to spend with her family and friends. She didn't want sympathy, as we heard. She didn't want to be treated differently. She never complained or questioned. Josh, if nothing else, I want to share a message to you from the bottom of my heart, and I know so many who know and love you. That we saw you not only care for Dannie with love and with affection and with attention, but the selfless devotion and loyalty to prioritize her needs and her wants and the way that she would deal with this illness over anything that you would want was simply superhuman. The word you used for her could equally be applied to you. And I know that she understood just how much you gave up and the effort it took and the life that you led in these past years. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you strength and fortitude, comfort and consolation. May He reward you many, many times over for that selflessness. To Dannie's family, to her parents, it's not surprising to see where Dannie came from, how amazing she was, because that same modesty and humility that were her hallmarks. You interrupted your life, you moved to Boca for the last several months, and in the shadows you appeared at every minyan in some classes and throughout the community, all while preserving her secret and what she wanted, but there only to care for her and for her family. May Hashem give you the strength to endure the memories of the special daughter that you produced. Dannie Grajower, Daniela Sarah, Basel Eliezer, Yisrael Halevi, an amazing sweet flower has been plucked from Hashem's garden, but her enduring fragrance will last forever. Tehinam Shatzura B'tzura.
We thank all of the speakers who gave us insight into who this fantastic woman was. And I'm sure that all of us will be better for what we have heard and improving our lives and how one can possibly live. I'd like to ask Rabbi Chaim Axelrod, Rabbi Yaluzov Nevashel, to recite the Kel Malay. And we mentioned that the interment will take place immediately following the service at Wellwood Cemetery, Pine Lawn, New York. The shiva will be observed until Friday afternoon at the home of the Epsteins at 339 Oxford Road in New Rochelle. They ask that no visitors come beyond 9:30 p.m. in the evening. There will be Dana Minyonim Shacharis at 8 o'clock in the morning and Mincha Marv at 5:40 p.m. in the afternoon. We ask that family members serve as the pallbearers to take the casket, the urn, out after the Kel Malay of Axel.
Shochein b'amromim Hamsei menucha nechona Al kanfei hashechina B'mahalos kedoshim u'tehorim Kizohar harakia mazirim Es nishmas Daniela Sarah Bas Eliezer Yisrael Levi Uliva Tova Shalcha Liolama Bahu שאנחנו מספרים Vadaskaras nishmasa. Tekanei dentehei menukasa. Vachein bal harachamim. Yastireha b'seiser knafav li'olamim. Yitzror b'tzor chayim es nishmasa. Adonai hu nachlasa. V'sanuach v'shalom al mishkava v'nomar amen. Amen.